Hello there, fellow human. Today's video is me just making notes about a random subject. So this is what my typical note-taking would look like and how I use my knowledge management system. And today's topic is mythology. I'm currently reading Stephen Fry's book Mythos, and I find these stories quite entertaining. And I want to commit them to memory. I want to commit them to my external brain, if you will. So today you can see how I take these notes and how I think about integrating them into a system. Where I start with my daily notes, I then go away from my daily note to create the different Greek mythology notes like Apollo, Zeus, Hermes, Hera, how they're all interlinked, the type of tagging system I use, how I think about the home bases where I want to retrieve that information. You'll see all of that with a very slow-paced video, but it should give you a good idea on how to structure your own knowledge management system. So this is what we're working towards. We're working towards a Greek mythology knowledge base, if you will. And we are using Obsidian Base, which is a semi-replacement for Dataview. But we're still using Dataview in order to retrieve the individual logs. So the end product of today's session is we have a base, Greek mythology, and we can see all the notes we've ever taken related to Greek mythology. And we can see all the Greek gods, and we can create as many bases as we want. And then we have our breadcrumb trail of, on the 17th, we can see that we've made an effort to build up our Greek mythology knowledge. And we go into the individual notes, we look at the connections between the different Greek gods. And yeah. If you found this valuable, let me know. If you like the setup, feel free to support me by buying the Evergreen Vault, which comes pre-populated with templates and everything is set up and ready for you to go. I also offer consulting sessions where I help everybody from white-collar professionals to writers to people doing their PhD or still studying or trying to build a perfect study system. I offer consulting sessions so you can concentrate on the work and your creativity and your ideas and not concentrate on the tool. So I'm helping you accelerate this whole process where you don't need to spend months trying to create and craft the perfect system, because I'm here to help you so you can just start working, studying, thinking in your system. And lastly, I want to introduce the PKM course. This is a course that has been months in the making. A lot of people have asked for a more structured approach to learning Obsidian, and this is my answer to that. It is where I have specific chapters, which I'll keep updated, and you can go through them in any order that you wish. Let's say you want to learn more about a specific plugin. There would be a whole chapter dedicated to that plugin. Let's say you want to learn about the work use case, specifically meetings. There will be a chapter dedicated to meetings. And this is probably one of the most comprehensive courses out there on Obsidian if you enjoy my workflows and my use cases, which is work, study, journaling, and just general note-taking. And I cannot wait to hear from you, my fellow human. Last night I read about Hermes, or Hermes. How to pronounce Hermes. Hermes. Hermes, Greek god. Croissant. Come on. Hermes. Okay, Hermes. Hermes. Last night I read about Hermes. And it's a god that I resonate with. It's the trickster god. It's a god that always looks for trouble, and he tries to make fun out of everything. Hermes is the messenger god, and I find him quite fascinating because he is also known as the trickster god. His Roman counterpart is probably Thor's brother, Loki, and this god lives to trick people, and it seems like he is probably the god that has the most fun out of all the Greek gods. So I want to learn more about them, and I want to show the interactions and how Hermes relates to the other gods. And this is where I would start. So I would normally say I have a log of some, so like let's say a log reading where I'm currently reading Mythos, Stephen Fry, and book. So now I know where I'm getting this information from. And I read about Hermes, Greek god, Greek messenger god. So this is where I would deviate away from the daily note. So the daily note is just a breadcrumb that you have for yourself. Everything I do typically starts from the daily note, where I indicate a specific time, and then I do something, and then I navigate away from the daily note in order to fill in a note, and then I come back. So I want to learn more about Hermes, the Greek messenger god, and this is where I would create a note template. And then I will start filling in the metadata. I use the properties window in order to fill it in, because I feel this is a much cleaner view. You can go to the reading mode and also fill it in here, but I just make a habit to fill it here on the sides. And I can go from top to bottom. So the tags is typically the first thing I would fill in. And I would say type Greek god, and I would say on mythology, I would say on Greek mythology, on trickster, on messenger. So the type typically indicates what this note is about. So Hermes is a Greek god. And then I would give on tags, which basically just shows that it's on a specific topic. So this is on mythology, it's on Greek mythology, it's on trickster, it's on messenger. And the reason for this is, in the future, if I'm writing an article about messages or messengers, this note will pop up. And to quickly deviate away from our note taking to show you how I would use this, let's say I'm writing something about messengers and I want to see if I have any notes related to the phrase messenger. And this is where this would come up. This is where I would see this note, Hermes, Greek messenger god, pops up, because I still haven't finished it. It should pop up. Hermes, the Greek messenger god. Also known as the trickster god. And status, I'm currently busy with it. This is where I would see it. So this note will pop up on the messenger, and then I can start using this note as input for other projects. The related, I would say it's related to Loki, Roman god. And this is where I would probably go and do some quick searching. Who was Loki god? Norse mythology, not Roman mythology. So that's where I would change this to Loki, Norse god. And then I can deviate away from Hermes and create Loki. And I would say new node template. And Loki is the god of mischief and tricks. And here I would fill in similar tags. I would say type Norse god, maybe type god. And I would say it is on Norse mythology. I would say it's on trickster, on manipulation, maybe. And related would be Hermes. So now we can see in our graph view, we have a connection. And we can display different things. So let's say the tags. We can see that Loki is now tied to these tags as well. So if I go to type Greek god, not a Greek god, on Norse mythology, there we go. And let's say on mythology, because they both fall under the realm of mythology. So now if I go to on mythology, I can see that both these pop up, which is quite nice. So both of them are tagged to on mythology. And there's different ways that you can use this graph, but I just like to see that connection between the two of them. So first things first, let's fill in some background regarding Hermes. So Hermes, who was his father? How was he born? What is his origin story? And I would say, give me a very brief summary of Hermes. So Greek god, traveled to, is a messenger of the gods, and in his speed, cleverness, and wearing winged sandals. He's a son of Zeus and the nymph Maya. Hermes also guides souls to the underworld. So this is a summary, which I would then tend to write in my own words. And I would say Hermes is the son of Zeus, Greek god. And I would say all father, but we'll get to his note. And Maya, Greek mythology, nymph. And this is what I would say, parents, god of, and here I would say Hermes is the god of travel, communication, thieves, and trickery. He is also the messenger god for all the other gods who lives on Olympus, which is where the Greek gods resides. Mount Olympus, I think. Now we can see Hermes is starting to accumulate quite a lot of connections. And this is wonderful. This is how we think. This is how our brains work. These connections, they build in value over time. Because now in the future, if I come across any Norse mythology, let's say I'm watching Vikings and I come across Ragnar, and I'm interested in the Norse gods, well, I would then want to maybe look up Loki, and then I can see Loki. Oh, Loki is related to Hermes. How are they related? And from that, I have a database that I curated for myself, which I build up. And that is quite powerful. And I would say sources, and I would say Mythos and ChatGPT. So here I would typically put in the sources. So Mythos, and if you want to include ChatGPT, and it just changes to a list so we can fill in multiple sources, I would say ChatGPT. So Hermes is the god of travel. And what did he look like? He wore winged sandals and had a staff with snakes. What attire did Hermes have? Who made it for him? I know it was Hera's son, her first son, he became the smith of the gods. And he really liked Hermes, so he crafted the sandals because Hermes became the messenger god. But he liked Hermes so much that he crafted a staff for him as well. So let's see. Winged sandals, winged helmet, and then the staff. And it was hip, higher, stos. I have no idea how to pronounce that, but he was the god of blacksmithing and craftsmanship. So hip hastus, and I feel like adding him as well. And I would say Hephaestus, the god of blacksmithing, blacksmith, and craftsmanship, or womanmanship. We don't discriminate. He was rejected by his mother, so when he was born, his mother was so... Yeah, let's go off on this little side tangent. So you can see, while I'm taking notes, I jump around, and you can just stick with one and fill in everything, and you can come back to the notes you haven't filled in yet. So you can see we haven't filled in Zeus yet. I probably spelled it wrong as well. We haven't filled in his mother, and you can see on the graph these light gray notes are notes that haven't been created yet, but they're placeholders for when in the future I feel like, oh, now I'm ready to fill in more information for Zeus. And Zeus was a womanizer. Zeus just, his only criteria was anything with a pulse. And yeah, interesting character. But what I'm trying to say is you can take notes however you want. You can fill in Hermes completely and just carry on writing. And then once you're done with this note and you feel happy with it, you can then switch to, okay, now I want to jump to Hephaestus, the god of blacksmith and craftsmanship. But for me, I like jumping around. I like to fill in little nuggets of things I remember. So I'm going to go with new note. And the god of blacksmith and craftsmanship. His parents were Hera and Zeus. Am I spelling Zeus correctly? Probably not. Zeus. There we go. Zeus. And his wife was Aphrodite. Yeah, a funny story how he won Aphrodite's hand in marriage is he crafted a seat that trapped Hera. And then Zeus said, whoever can free his wife, Hera, wins Aphrodite's hand in marriage. And at that time, Aphrodite was kind of in love with the god of war, which is Ares. But Ares is seen as a very brutish, stupid character, although he is the god of fighting and a god of war and a god of just chaos. But then Hephaestus cleverly won her hand in marriage. So he was born from Zeus. And you can see we spelled it incorrectly, so let's just quickly go fix this by creating the new note and correcting it. You can see it's updating everywhere else. And then we just give a summary. The All-Father God, God of gods, killed his father and secured the throne for eternity. And here you can fill in again on type Greek god, on Greek mythology, on thunder, on lightning. So you can see it's lightning. Lightning. See, my spelling today is horrible. Lightning. You can see the tags that I give. It's very random. This is just anything that comes to mind. I just give it a tag because in the future, if I am thinking about or writing about or entertaining the thought about thunder, I have notes related to thunder. I can see, oh, Zeus, Greek god, of course. And I can find ways to incorporate this information into whatever I'm working on. This is how your system works for you. If you are writing a speech and the speech is on a topic where you want to use lightning or thunder, you can go look at your database and remember, I have incurred the word thunder or lightning before. Can I maybe reuse this? And that is where Obsidian becomes quite powerful because of all of these connections. You can see Zeus, Greek god. So let's not continue with Zeus just yet. And Hera, Greek goddess. Let's also say Greek god. He was malformed. Hera threw him down because she was disgusted in him, in how he looked. He managed to find a way to become one of the 12 Mount Olympus gods. He became the god of blacksmithing, and craftsmanship. Let's just say the god of blacksmithing and craftsmanship. He devised a ruse and trapped Hera in a chair. Zeus offered Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, I think. Aphrodite. Yeah, Aphrodite, she has a very interesting origin story. So she was born from the sea foam of the Cronus, Zeus's father, through his father's severed parts into the sea. Okay, there's two origin stories. And this is something that I would include when I'm working on Aphrodite's note. But I would say this. Aphrodite, Greek goddess of love, beauty, desire, and fertility. And you can see I don't pay much attention to how I'm naming the notes, because the beauty of Obsidian is you can always go change it, and it would update wherever you have mentioned it before. And in marriage. And I would say on Greek mythology, on astrology, and I would say on craftsmanship. So now if I ever have a topic of craftsmanship, it would pop up. And if I ever have something I'm writing about blacksmithing, it would also pop up. And he's related to Zeus and Hera. And his brother would be in the first version, Ares, god of war, and his Roman counterpart would be Mars. And yeah, I would say, yeah, it's still active, so I'm still working on it. Okay, then I can go back to Hermes, where, what did he look like? Well, Hephaestus crafted him winged sandals, winged cap, and what else? This guy. A herald's staff with 2 snakes intertwined, symbol of peace and negotiation. And a cloak of suitable movement. What a lame cloak. What you wearing? No, I'm wearing a cloak of suitable movement. Well, I'm guessing today's time people are trying to stand out so much. Maybe it's functional clothing. Okay, let's just go with this guy. Staff. With 2 snakes intertwined. And at the top I might say why I like him. So the origin story, insanely clever. Immediately when he was born, he stole Apollo, the sun god. Complex gods. God of sun, music, archery, poetry. There's so many gods of poetry. Holy damn. Apollo. Greek god of the sun, poetry, archery, healing, and of music. And he stole Apollo's prized cows. Apollo came down from Mount Olympus to find and kill whoever stole his sacred cows. And Hermes made him a flute. What did Hermes make for Apollo? The lyre, a stringed musical instrument, not a flute. As a newborn, Hermes was already mischievous. On his first day of life, he invented the lyre using a tortoiseshell, an animal gut, and reeds. And he stole Apollo's cattle, cleverly disguised his tracks. When Apollo found out, he was furious, but Hermes, played the lyre to charm him. Apollo was so impressed by the music that he forgave Hermes in exchange, accepted the lyre as a gift. Later, Apollo became the god of music as well. So Hermes made Apollo a lyre and also turned Apollo into the god of music. So I'm filling in a lot of information, and I am just going where curiosity is taking me. And you might wonder, okay, well, how will I retrieve this one day? And the answer is I would close everything down. And on a daily note, I would say I am doing some studying regarding mythology. Created Greek Mythology home. And this is where I would probably want to see all my Greek mythology notes. So open it up, and I say this is a new node template. Here we can find all nodes related to Greek mythology. And let's just say complete and tags type home and on Greek mythology, on mythology. So on this note, I want to have a table. So I can either use Dataview or the new Obsidian Base plugin, which is just Dataview, but a little bit better. And generally I would go to my bases and I would create a new base. And I would call this base Greek Mythology. And let's press enter and put it in the middle so we have more real estate. Now you can see this is just a table that's returning all the nodes. But I want to put a filter on it to say where the tags contains on Greek mythology. Now we can see we have all the nodes related to Greek mythology. You might wonder, okay, well, how do we know? We can add the tags, we can add the summary, we can add the creator date as well. And here we can see tags. Oh, the summary. And let's move this here. And this is how we are building out our database. And this table, let's configure this table. Let's call it all notes. This is all notes that have the on Greek mythology. And let's create a new one. Let's duplicate this view and call this Greek gods. And now we're on the Greek gods table, and we want to add another filter. We want to say where the tags contains type Greek god. Now I'm thinking about it, I would probably use on Greek god as well. So here we can see we have two nodes that meets that criteria. So if you go back to all nodes, you can see that this guy should also probably be a Greek god. And we can see that we need to put a type. I would just say, yeah, let's stick with the on Greek god. Now if we go back and we go to Greek gods, you can see that Hermes is also appearing there. And there's a lot of nodes that we don't see yet. So if we go to Zeus, we can see that he is related to Hera, but Hera is not created yet. So let's just put this here and let's go back to the Greek mythology home base and let's just create a new view or a new heading called Greek gods. And here's where we want to fill in the base, Greek mythology base. And here we can filter through, but let's say we want to see the Greek gods. We put a hashtag and we go to that table within that base. And now we have this wonderful view. And there's ways to make this a little bit longer. Not going to worry about that settings for now, but you can see that the table is populating fun. So we can see that Hera is not there yet because Hera is not created yet. So let's create it and we say new node template. And here we can use the same fields that we used for, let's say, Zeus. Go to editing mode and let's just take this tags and just change this to on Greek god. But it is a type Greek god. So this is where the tagging can sometimes get confusing. So if you're confused, just opt for both. Because what is this node? This node is a type Greek god node. And it's on Greek god. It's on, yeah. Yeah, I would say this is correct, but hey, just use both if you're uncertain. And now, if we go to this page, we can see, oh, she's suddenly being populated, and we can see all the tags. I would say related Zeus, Hephaestus. There we go. Zeus's wife, goddess of woman, family, and childbirth. So of woman, family, and childbirth. What a fun god. God of pain. And pending, because I still need to fill it in. But this is how I start to fill in notes if I'm interested in a subject. And I'm using Greek mythology as the example, but you can think of any other subject. Like, let's say you're interested in running, I would basically do the same process. Let's say I want to increase my 5-kilometer running time. I would go and watch a video, and from that video I would make notes from a daily note. So let's say they say there's a specific running technique on how your feet should fall on the pavement. I would create a note, correct way of letting your feet hit the ground while running. And then I would fill it in. I'll fill in the different sources. I'll make the connections, and then I'll create a running home base. I'll create a base for running, and then I would create different tables within that base. So then I would have correct running techniques, running attire, running, I don't know, psychology. But this should give you an idea of how I take notes. And again, if I ever want to reuse these notes in the future, I know that it's my own notes. It is notes that I have written in my own words. If I go to this guy, I can know that this is words that I can just reuse, and I don't need to worry about finding the source really again, because I did put it in my own words. There's a couple of things that I quickly want to change. And it's probably this type Greek god. I had a bit of a think about it, and I would probably change this to type character instead of type Greek god. So change this to character, maybe on fertility. And then I want to go change a couple of the other gods as well. Let's go back to Greek mythology. So what I want to change is this base. And it's maybe a good time to talk about bases. The new functionality that the Obsidian team is implementing is basically a replacement for Dataview. We still use Dataview for the individual lines that we send to different places. So if we go to Greek mythology home and we go here to the daily note, if we want to send this individual piece of information, we still use the tasks format in order to send individual pieces to other places. And for that, we still use Dataview. And Dataview is quite useful. Basically 2 types of information, or 3 types, but we're going to talk about the 2 types of information. The first is notes that you want to retrieve, which we use bases for now. So these little bases that you can see here. And then we have logs, which are individual pieces of information. So let's say you have a birthday idea for Zeus, your all-father. Then you'll have something like this, where you would put it in a task format. And you would say, gift to show the icon gift, and this is on gift idea for, let's take somebody else. Who do you want to send this to? Let's send it to Astrid the Iceboth King, Astrid the Viking. And this is where you can retrieve that gift idea. So if you go to Astrid, it's a type person, and you go to log, you can see that, oh, we have the gift idea for Astrid, and you can see all the other gift ideas that you have. Remember that Astrid likes specific South African treats. And in the search functionality, you can search for on gift idea, and you can see all the gift ideas you've ever had for that person. Now for this functionality, we still use Dataview, and the Dataview query looks like this. We specify task because we are using the tasks functionality in this format. So you can see that this is a task, which you can check and uncheck. And we use this functionality in order to send it to different places. So we specify we want to retrieve all tasks, and then we say where this file name, Astrid, was mentioned in the line. And then we just say where it's not a task and where it's not a question, and we just sort it. So this is how we still use the Dataview functionality. But for things like this, meeting notes or home bases, we generally use Dataview in order to retrieve the notes. So let's say all the meetings that Astrid was a part of. You can create similar functionality. You don't need to write all of this code. What we can do now is we can use the base functionality. And to get Obsidian Base functionality, which is a replacement for retrieving notes in Obsidian, you need to buy the Catalyst license. So if we go to the Obsidian website, we can see what the Catalyst license is. And you can see it's a once-off contribution of 25 euros. And I think it's well worth it because you get access to new versions, which means that you get access to the base functionality, which is not available to the public yet. And it's a once-off purchase, and then you'll have early access to everything else. With Obsidian Base, you can see it requires early access, which you can get through a Catalyst license. With bases, I feel that it is core functionality which Obsidian was lacking. We use Dataview, but Dataview is still a little bit complex. This just simplifies things a little bit more if you don't have coding experience. So what you need to do is you need to upgrade to the Catalyst license. And what you need to do then is you need to go back to your Obsidian and switch on receive early access versions. So make sure this is toggled on. And then you just need to check for the new version. And then once that is available, you can just create a new folder called bases. And whenever you right click, you can just say new base. And that's how you will be met with something like this, which you can then add new tables to a specific base. So if you go to Greek Mythology, we have all our notes. And we go to filter, and we can see we only have one filter, where contains Greek mythology. And for the second table, where we want to see all the Greek gods, well, this is where it contains on Greek mythology. And it's a type god, but I think we want to change this now. So let's change this and add the filter tags where it contains, and I'm going to change it to character because that makes more sense to me. So we want to make sure that this was correct, which it was not, but it's always safer just to use the side panel. To get this view, we just go to the command palette and we just say show file properties, and then it would pop up, and just make sure you drag it to your right side panel. And now if you go look at the table, it's still not showing up, and we need to find out why it's not showing up, because according to me, we have tags contains on Greek mythology, and tags contains on character. Oh, not on character. We want type. character. So now if you press enter, Hera should show up, and she does. So now we just quickly want to go change all the other gods. So this is not a type Greek god. This is a type character. And this is on Greek mythology. And it's on Greek god. Okay, who's next? Let's go for Hermes. This is on Greek god. And this is type character. So we have that as well. Loki. It's not going to show up here because this is just on Greek mythology, not Norse mythology, but we want to do something similar here where we say it is a type character, because it's a type character of something, and it's on Norse god. And we can take this out. Let's see, who are we missing? Let's go create Polo. And new node template. And maybe this is where we can speak about templates. So if you are planning to use a lot of similar templates, meaning every single time when we created a new character, a new god node, we had to put in all of those tags every single time on Greek mythology, on Greek god. And we might not want to do that. And we don't always want to re-enter it if we can just use a template. So a template is quite easy to create. Just go to templates and let's use the new node template. Let's duplicate it. Let's call this Greek God mythology template. So every time we create a new Greek god, we can just use this template. And we want to say it's a type character on Greek mythology, on Greek god. And yeah, so now we don't have to fill in those 3 templates every single time. So we can go back to Apollo, we can take this out, and we can reuse the Greek god mythology template. Now you can see we have everything filled in already, which is quite nice. And on sun, not on sun, on sun, on poetry, on archery. The god of sun, poetry, healing, archery, and music, I would say, is definitely related to Zeus and definitely related to Hermes. And yeah, we can say again mythos if we want to. Who else? Who else? Who else? Mount Olympus, Loki is created. Zeus created Apollo. Hera. Yeah, so I feel we are filling in all the notes that we want. Hephaestus still needs to be a type character, and on Greek god. That's already created. Good. And we always check to see if it's being populated effectively, and it is. So let's move everything to one place. And if we go to our Greek mythology home base, you can see that we have our Greek gods, but we might want to add another heading called Greek mythology notes. And this is where we want to pull in, if you go back to the base, the all notes on Greek mythology. And when we go to the filter, we can see again, tags contains on Greek mythology. So that is what we want to retrieve here. And how we do it is we use exclamation mark and we look for the base, Greek mythology base. And then we put a hashtag at the end to choose which table of that base we want to use. And we want to use all nodes. And I would say this is pretty sleek. You have a good idea of how to build a knowledge base on a specific topic. You know how to create a base. And let's say we want to include a data view of all the times where we decided to study Greek mythology. So daily, let's call it logs. We never have to recreate code. You can always just go to one of the templates and choose one of the queries to rework. So we want to retrieve log. So let's take this one and let's just paste it and see if it returns something. And here we can see created Greek mythology home. We can change it because we might not want to return every time we mention this. We might just want to return every time where we have a specific tag. So we can have something like on Greek mythology, because this was a study session on Greek mythology. And what we might want to change is instead of looking for contains text this file name, which is Greek mythology home, we can just look for a specific tag, which is on Greek mythology. And then we get this log. So let's say at 1700, we decided to do some more reading. Log reading on Greek mythology. Read chapters on Apollo and Zeus. And we can just indicate some of the nodes that we created. Here, for instance, maybe you want to specify Hephaestus. Now, if we pull this to the side and we close things down, you can see that it's being returned here. And this is basically a breadcrumb trail of every time when you decide to work on a specific topic. This is how you build different databases. Again, I'm using Greek mythology, but you can use anything that you want, any hobby that you have. Let's say you want to learn more about style, then you can create a style homepage. If you want to learn more about lamps, I love lamp. I love lamp. I love lamp. Sue me, I love lamp. If you want to learn more about lamps, then you can create a lamp homepage. And you can see all the notes that you've ever created regarding the tag on lamps. And then let's say you get very geeky about lamps. You can have standing lamps, ceiling lamps, chandeliers, and then you can create different bases for them. And then you also have this breadcrumb trail of every single time you worked on that topic. I hope this is valuable. If you do find this valuable, let me know so I can create more of these videos, because I am doing this note-taking in any case, whether I'm recording or not. And if other people found value out of it, how to use a knowledge management system, then I might as well just record more of these abstract things that I like to study.